Hello. I want to start off this video by saying spoilers for my what if Bridgette stayed loyal to Geoff in World Tour continuation. Well, this is the continuation, but spoilers for that what if, because this is the continuation, so you will kind of be spoiled for that what if, because certain characters who got from that season might be in this season, and then I'm going to reference that season with, like, interactions and stuff. So if you haven't seen that season, or if you haven't seen that what if, but you plan on watching it, go do that now and then come back later. And now that everyone who left is gone, the continuation of What If Bridgette Stayed Loyal to Geoff. This is the cast that you guys voted for on a community poll. The only differences are, well, there's actually quite a lot of differences. We have these three gone, and we have Bridgette, DJ, and Lashawna now here. Okay, so let's start. Okay, the first episode. This episode starts with Chris finishing his prison sentence, and the producers bringing him back and the entire show back for a new season. Then the old stars are introduced, except for Alejandro because he's currently in a robot suit after World Tour. Then Chris announces the teams, heroes and villains, and when Gwen complains about being on the villains team, Lashawna comforts her, saying whoever made the teams clearly hasn't watched the past seasons, kind of like suggesting that she's pretty annoyed with being on the villains team too, because if you've seen my What If, and even just the canon action too, she was a little bit of a villain. However, being compared to people like Heather or Alejandro, it's a little bit extreme. Okay, the first challenge starts, and one member of each team has to be a runner who will, like, carry a diver from their team in a baby carriage to the spa hotel place after they find a key. And then I'm really bad at doing challenges. Hopefully you know what the All-Star Challenge is. Basically, one person has to be a runner and stuff, but I'll talk about that later. These rest of the people have to jump off a cliff, find a key in the water, then they get onto the shore, and then this is where the runner comes in. They start running with the person in a baby carriage to the spa hotel, and if that person's key that they took out of the water opens the spa hotel, then they win immunity and go to the spa hotel. Yeah, that's it. Okay. Heather insists that Lashawna has to push their carriage, as there's no way anyone could drive the carriage with Lashawna in it. Lashawna gets up into Heather's face, asking if she wants another head shave. Joe gets annoyed with their bickering and volunteers to push the carriage, while all the heroes offer each other the spot, which annoys Courtney, so she makes DJ do it. Because she knows he's athletic, strong, and fast. Meanwhile, Joe does it for the villains. Then everyone else climbs up onto the cliff, and the challenge begins. Lightning goes first at the jumping for the villains, and Courtney goes first for the jumping for the heroes. Oh shoot. There we go. While DJ is pushing Courtney, like in the carriage after she gets out of the water, she offers him a Gen 1 alliance, as the Gen 2 currently outnumber them on the heroes team, and it's obvious that they'll stick together because they're all friends. DJ is unsure and tells Courtney that he'll think about it, but Courtney yells at him, saying it's now or never. But then she notices that, like, they've kind of slowed down, and the villains team has taken the lead from them now, and she realizes that she has to be less aggressive and strategic with DJ and more nice, and to make DJ feel comfortable in the alliance. So she tries to make DJ think that the alliance is more of a friendship, so she smoothens her tone and says that it's fine if he doesn't know yet, but asks him to make the decision before their first vote, even while wearing a fake smile. Lightning and Joe arrive at the hotel, but Lightning's key doesn't work on the door, so they have to go back. Then DJ and Courtney arrive, and Courtney shoves Lightning out of her way to quickly unlock the door. It's, the villains are in the lead, so Courtney wants to take back the lead. And then she realizes that what she did just looked bad in front of DJ, so she helps him up quickly. But then when she realizes that her key doesn't work on the door, she knocks him down again in frustration. While waiting for the others to return, Heather points out that Lashana should go next, as they should save their fastest members for last, and with all the junk in Lashana's behind, she's clearly the slowest. This leads to Lashana picking up Heather and throwing her off the cliff, as she sees Joe and Lightning arrive, as just a nice little comeback to Island when Lashana shoved Heather off the cliff in the first challenge. Okay. Then DJ and Courtney arrive only a few seconds later, and Bridgette convinces Cameron to go, as she doesn't want to say it, but he's a bit, scrawny and weak, and she thinks that they should save the strongest swimmers for later in case, they really need it when there's only, a few keys left. Cameron is able to use his petite body to slip past the sharks pretty easily and grab a key. While the sharks are distracted by Heather, however, she's able to escape by kicking one of them in the nose. While Joe was carrying Heather, let me just get me out of here. Wait. Okay. While Joe is carrying Heather, Heather tries convincing Joe to join her in an alliance against Lashana, but Joe says that she votes however she wants, and Lashana's moves have been pretty impressive so far. They get to the spa hotel, but Heather's key doesn't fit, so they leave. And as they leave, DJ and Cameron arrive, but Cameron's key also doesn't fit. Bridgette goes next for the heroes, as she figures her strategy of having weak players go first isn't really working too well, so she decides she just wants to try and get more athletic members to go sooner rather than later, because maybe they'll get the key quicker. I don't know. Scott refuses to go for the villains, which results in Alejandro getting knocked off the cliff and breaking out of his robot suit. Everyone is horrified at seeing him, except Heather, who's kind of relieved. Alejandro grabs a key, and as he swims past Bridgette, he asks her if she thought she could get rid of him so easily. Bridgette slaps herself back into reality and grabs a key quickly while riding to the spa hotel. On the journey to the spa hotel, Bridgette is excited to reunite with DJ, and DJ is also excited to see her too, and they agree to work together. DJ also mentions Courtney's alliance offer, and Bridgette tells him that they should agree, as they're in a dangerous position on the team, with being outnumbered by the Gen 2 people. Yeah. Both teams make it to the spa hotel, but Alejandro is able to unlock the door, meaning the villains win immunity and the place at the spa hotel. Okay. So we'll get the villains out here, and now the heroes have to go vote. This vote is pretty hard, as no one really did bad in the challenge. But these three have an alliance, and they all come to an agreement. So before the elimination ceremony, they talk to Mike, Zoe, and Cameron and explain how Sam is clearly the weak link on the team, and they have to vote him off to benefit the team. Zoe, Cameron, and Mike sadly agree, as although they do like Sam, DJ and Bridgette are both very nice and performed well in the challenge, and although they don't really like Courtney's attitude so far, they admit that she is a strong contender, so Sam is voted out in a 6-1 vote, with Courtney in the bottom two. Sam understands, and since there's no toxic waste for him to become a mutant like Dakota, he just wants to go home and see her again. After the elimination, Gwen offers Courtney flowers, but Courtney is allergic, leading to her running off, screaming that Gwen is definitely on the right team. And then the episode ends with Lightning going to Boney Island to try and find the immunity idol. Okay, next episode. This episode starts with Bridgette comforting Zoe in the girls' side of the cabin. Well, let me just... There we go. Zoe feels bad for voting off Sam, but she knows that it was for the good of the team, and thanks Bridgette, as she feels very calm and relaxed in Bridgette's chill energy. Courtney is a little stressed, as she barely slipped past last night's elimination, and now that Bridgette is getting close to Zoe, they might work together, which is obviously bad for Courtney. We then see the boys' side of the cabin, and DJ is woken up by Mike's personalities, just acting out while he sleeps. And Cameron informs him of Mike's DID, as he didn't watch last season and he doesn't know what's going on. Mike wakes up and DJ tells him that all his personalities sound really nice. Mike and Cameron connect with DJ, so they invite him into their alliance to vote off Courtney. DJ doesn't really know what to say, as he is aligned with Courtney and doesn't want to break that, but he also really likes Cameron and Mike, and obviously he's not the biggest fan of Courtney's bossy attitude, so he asks them if he can think about it, and the guys agree, saying that he can take as much time as he needs. The villains are all celebrating their last win, except Gwen, who's still a little bit upset at being called a villain. Lashana sits next to her as they eat breakfast and tells her that there's nothing to worry about, as Lashana doesn't consider herself a villain either, but being sad and gloomy all the time only gets you voted off. Gwen states that sad and gloomy are kind of her vibe, and she always feels like that, well, except when torturing Heather. The two laugh and are glad to have rekindled their old friendship. Jo approaches them, asking to form an alliance with them, as she too can't stand Heather and wants her out as soon as possible. Gwen and Lashana are a little bit wary, but they agree as they know Jo is a strong competitor, and they want Heather gone for all that, she's done to them in the seasons prior to this one. Heather overhears all three of them talking and starts to feel a little bit bad as she's getting exiled by a group of villains, which is kind of weird as she's like the main villain of Total Drama. Anyway, now onto the actual challenge. The teams must dig in the sand to find pieces to assemble a puzzle, and the villains also get shovels for winning the last challenge to find their pieces. Okay. The heroes have an idea to separate the area into sections, and each pick one to dig in. Meanwhile, on the villains, Lashana and Jo both try leading the team, but it ends in a fight, and both of them walk off, just doing their own thing. Heather tries bringing them both back together. Get Gwen out of here. Saying that they should each hear each other out, but it ends in Lashana and Jo throwing a crab at her. Heather has a confessional saying she's trying to make this team work so they can win, and people will actually like her. She then catches herself saying that she can manipulate them to vote with her if they start to like her more, while smiling awkwardly, but then she sighs. Cameron finds a hat in the dirty laundry and uses it to bring out Manitoba to help find them pieces, and Alejandro tries telling Heather that he appreciates her efforts, but Heather walks off, telling him not to talk to her. Yeah. Scott still gets distracted by the bees and accidentally hits Mike in the head, which triggers Mal to come out. Heather notices that Alejandro's legs aren't really asleep when the crab crawls under them, but then when she finds out that it was just a crab, she feels awful for doubting him, but then she asks herself if she really just said that. She feels bad for someone, and she starts to wonder if she's turning different. The heroes clearly win this because they had Manitoba for like half the challenge, and no one's slacking on their team anymore without Sam, and the villains have been fighting the entire time. Lashana gets mad at her team for being so close to the win, but letting it fall between their fingers, and she realizes that Lightning miscounted the pieces as she counts them again, as she's in rage, losing, and she asks him how dumb he has to be to miscount. Lightning responds saying he doesn't have time to exercise his brain as he's always exercising these babies while kissing his muscles. This leads to Lashana chasing him around with a shovel. Okay, and now for the vote. It's clearly Lightning. No one else has any reason to target anyone else because everyone's mad at Lightning. Maybe people would vote for Heather, but they still care about team strength, and Lightning very clearly messed up. So Lightning's voted off. Lightning is shocked and tells his team that they'll be lost without him, which leads to Lashana throwing everyone's marshmallows at him, which is like a nice callback to Island again, when she did this to Noah after he was getting all like cocky about, them voting him off when he was helpful. Courtney goes to Boney Island because she knows that she's somewhat at the bottom of the team, and she wants to find the immunity idol, and that's where the immunity idol is, according to Chris. Okay, next episode. Okay, this episode starts with Lashawna and Joe keeping everyone up while they argue, and Gwen trying to get them to shut up. Let me just get them all over here. Heather agrees with Gwen, saying that they have to work together, and then Heather has a confessional asking if she really just agreed with Gwen, of all people, and asks herself what is happening to her. During the night, Mal comes out and breaks Courtney's PDA while she's at Boney Island. And yeah, Joe and Alejandro try forming an alliance with Gwen and Lashawna as they figure they come as a package because they're really the only bond that is on this villainous team, as everyone else kind of hates each other. Lashawna turns them both down immediately as she knows their game, but Gwen tries turning them down nicely, not wanting to seem villainous, as she's still against being called a villain. The heroes offer Courtney breakfast that they took from the hotel for her after Courtney returns from Boney Island, but Courtney feels how cold the food is and throws it on the ground, but then realizes how bad it looked, for her to... Oh my god, who keeps texting me? Silent. Courtney throws the food on the ground as she feels how cold it is and kind of gross for just being in their pocket for a few hours. So she throws it on the ground because obviously she doesn't want to eat it. But then she realizes how bad it looked. She did that, especially on a hero team. So she picks it up and eats it, trying to make it look good, but then she runs off to throw up because it was literally on the ground. Okay, now on to the actual challenge. 2 crates of leech cannons are hidden in the forest, and the teams must find these crates and hit the other team with leeches. The heroes get a 1 minute head start for winning the last challenge, and now that the heroes aren't slowed down trying to carry Sam, they reach the big crate first, leaving the villains with a smaller one. The big crate consisted of a giant cannon and a small one containing slingshots. I can't talk, help. Courtney insists of a giant cannon. Wait. I don't know what I'm saying. Help. Courtney insists on using the cannon because she has excellent aim, but later in a confessional, she reveals that she was lying and only wants to use the cannon as a shield in case they get attacked. And like the original, the heroes attack the villains, and Zoe hits Alejandro. He is out. And since Courtney is controlling the cannon, she is attacked, but she thinks fast and moves the smallest person on her team in front of her to get hit, which is Cameron. So Cameron is eliminated. This rubs Bridgette, DJ, and especially Mike and Zoe the wrong way, but they have no time to react as they're being ambushed, so they have to act fast. DJ starts pushing the cannon for his team away as they try to retreat, but he gets shot down by leeches as his team escapes. So he's also out. Courtney has the idea to hide in the leech cannon and then attack when the villains approach the cannon, as they just think it will be unprotected and they'll try stealing it, as obviously they're villains. And then they can use that opportunity to attack them. No one is too thrilled about this idea, as the cannon is pretty tiny, but no one else has any better ideas, so the heroes hide inside the cannon. But since there's literally no room, the villains hear them immediately, so Courtney jumps out of the cannon immediately, leaving her team to get hit by leeches. Courtney knows she can't fight all the villains at once, so she hides behind things like rocks and trees, and just things that she can dodge leeches with. And she tries taking a lucky shot at Lashawna, but Heather spots this and jumps in front of Lashawna. That's Gwen. Lashawna. Courtney is too confused to run, so the villains win immunity and a night at the spa hotel. Lashawna helps Heather up, asking her why she did that, and Heather responds saying she doesn't fully know, but she couldn't let Lashawna's hair look worse than it already looks. Lashawna doesn't pull off the leech look like she does. Lashawna helps Heather get the leech out of her hair, and the two laugh while walking towards the spa hotel. So the villains win immunity and go to the spa hotel, and the heroes go to elimination. Courtney is obviously who all the heroes have on their minds for voting, but Courtney also knows this, so she finds DJ and Bridgette. Get my DJ and Bridgette aren't really too excited to see her, and she notices this and decides to just cut to the chase. She points out that if they vote her off, then Cameron, Zoe, and Mike will work together to vote them both off next. Bridgette and DJ share a look, and although they don't want to, they admit that Courtney's right, and they all agree to vote off Cameron. And I went with Cameron because not only is he a liability to the team in strength challenges, but he's also Courtney's best bet in a tiebreaker, and she knows that she's going into a tiebreaker because there's no way that these three are going to vote against each other. Because really Cameron's only big strength is smarts, but even then Courtney is pretty smart too, so she figures she might have a chance of beating him. Before the elimination, the heroes drop off their stuff at the cabins, and Courtney is heard screaming louder than a human should be allowed to scream. Everyone, including the villains and Chris and Geoff, rush outside the cabins where they see an enraged Courtney holding her broken PDA. I guess I'll just bring these guys back down. She points at Cameron, saying "you" in a dark and dead tone. She accuses him of breaking it because he heard her plan of voting him off. Cameron is confused and insulted, but before he can say another word, Courtney starts walking to the elimination ceremony, saying she already knows who she's going to vote. Cameron begs DJ to switch his vote to Courtney, as she's clearly unhinged, and DJ is really frazzled and doesn't know what to do. At the elimination, there's a tie between Cameron and Courtney, and Courtney clearly wins. I mean, the only thing that Cameron is good at, as I said earlier, is smarts, and obviously Courtney is really smart, as we've seen before, and now she's even more enraged and has a drive to win, as she thinks Cameron destroyed her PDA. So Cameron loses. Okay. Zoe and Mike comfort Cameron at the dock of shame, and because obviously they're sad he's gone. And Bridgette apologizes for voting him off. Cameron asks DJ why he voted for him, and DJ apologizes, saying he couldn't risk his and Bridgette's spot in the game. Cameron understands, as DJ was put in a difficult position, and Cameron already had his time to shine last season before leaving. Cameron wishes Zoe and Mike luck and warns them to watch out for specific people while looking at Courtney. Cameron is then flushed away. The episode ends with Chris switching one member of each team for acting more like the other team's spirit. Well, let me just get these guys back. There we go. Anyway, and then those two people are Courtney, obviously, for ditching her entire team and endangering everyone on her team multiple times, especially Cameron for pushing him in front of a Leech being shot at her and just blowing up on him. Yeah. And the other person who swapped onto the heroes team is Heather. For saving someone who was supposed to be her enemy from a Leech. Gwen tries giving Courtney a warm welcome, like the original, but accidentally knocks a bucket of leeches at Courtney's head. Not having a very good start to Courtney's friendship. And then Scott volunteers for Boney Island so he can try and find the Immunity Idol. Okay, next episode. This episode starts off with Courtney realizing she needs allies now that she's on a team of villains, and she chooses Joe, because she's noticed Joe and Lashawna's constant bickering, and since Joe is unfamiliar with Courtney's bossy attitude, Courtney tries asking Joe how she is, but Joe mostly brushes her off, saying she doesn't do small talk. Courtney realizes she has to be less personal and more upfront when on the villains team, than the heroes team. So, wait, no. Courtney tries asking Joe how she is, but Joe mostly brushes her off, saying she doesn't do small talk. Courtney realizes that she has to be less personal and more upfront when on the villains team, because that's not how they roll. God, I hate myself. The heroes throw the same celebration for Heather like they did for Duncan originally, welcoming her to the villains team. And Heather tries hiding it, but she gets all giddy about the party, as we know that she's very into artsy things from previous seasons. While partying, Zoe asks Heather. There we go. Zoe talks to Heather, and she tells Heather that she didn't know she was so into partying. Heather tells her that she's more so into the artsy style of the party. Heather then realizes what she said and tries covering it up, but Zoe can see through her lie. Zoe tells her it's cool, and she's also into art. Heather tells Zoe about her secret glitter glue collection, and the two bond more before Zoe is taken away by DJ, as he asks her to help carry down a pin the tail on the donkey he made last night for the special occasion. Heather smiles as they walk away, and Heather has a confessional saying that's the first time she's genuinely smiled in a long time, and she actually feels comfortable and likes talking to Zoe. Bridgette, let me just get her there. Wait, I lost it. Wait, technical difficulties. Wait, I found it. Bridgette has a confessional saying she's down to party, but she also has her eye on Heather, as she's burned a lot of bridges to get what she wants in the past. Zoe and DJ rush back, both looking very upset, as they show the torn up donkey DJ made last night. Bridgette comforts DJ, saying all they need to fix it is some glue and tape. As they go off to try and fix the donkey, we get a flashback to last night, where we see Mal ripping apart the donkey, and Mike worrying that he keeps breaking people's things. Then Gwen has a confessional saying she only came back to Total Drama to make things better with Courtney, but now Courtney hates her more than ever, and she could have just stayed home with Duncan, who begged her not to come back, as she feels like she's choosing Courtney over her boyfriend. But then she says that the last few days without Duncan constantly talking about Courtney have been amazing, but then she realizes what she said and realizes that she really is a villain. Courtney overhears all of this, as Gwen's in the confessional, so Courtney overhears her while outside. What am I doing? Why am I so awkward? Courtney overhears all of this and is shocked that Gwen not only came back to Total Drama just for Courtney, but also chose her over Duncan, her own boyfriend. Then the challenge starts, and Scott is brought back from Boney Island. Chef drops him off on top of Courtney, who yells at him for obviously falling on top of him, and Scott apologizes and spots some leftover moldy breakfast behind Courtney's ear and eats it, which grosses out Courtney but also makes her giggle. The challenge is eating a giant pancake until your team's bell rings. Then you must complete an obstacle course without throwing up. Oh my god. The first team to eat their entire pancake wins immunity and a night at the Spa Hotel. Scott goes first for the villains. Let me get him here. Because he's been at Boney Island all night and hasn't eaten. And Heather goes first for the heroes because no one really wants to go, so Heather wants to show off her value to her new team because she knows that she's kind of on the bottom of it. Okay. Heather starts off kind of bad because she's still full from eating all the cake she had this morning from the party. And when she finds the fish eyes and mistakes them for blueberries in the pancakes and throws up, eliminating her and making her look bad in front of her new team. So let me just put her over to the side because she is eliminated. DJ then goes for the heroes because he's really tall and can probably hold a lot of pancake. So let me just get him. Okay, and then the heroes are losing by quite a lot. So Scott starts the obstacle course, and he takes a really long time, but manages to complete it. DJ gets attacked by a raccoon, but because of his love for animals, he's able to tame it. And he does excellent in the obstacle course because of his extremely graceful feat, only getting slowed down by the boot and the salad spinner. But he doesn't throw up, so when Scott finishes, Courtney yells at him, saying that they just lost their lead, which attracts Scott to her, calling her pretty when she's mad. So these two have completed it, so gotta get them out. So then Jo goes next for the villains because she knows she'll do well at the obstacle course. So let me get Jo. Okay, Jo eats a decent amount of pancake and a little bit more than the average, and does the obstacle course really quickly because obviously she's really athletic, and this allows the villains to take back the lead. Then Bridgette goes next for the heroes. Let me get her here. And she eats a little under average, especially after she bites a mousetrap, which obviously slows her down. She does really well at certain parts of the obstacle course, but pretty bad at the others. However, when she lands in the salad spinner, she throws up, as she did in the talent show contest when she was just standing upside down on her hands. After eating a lot of crisps, and now she's being whirled around in a dangerous device, right after eating like a dangerous amount of pancakes. So she fails and she goes to sit down beside Heather. When she goes to sit down beside Heather, she says she played very pathetically, which gets Heather some glares from her team. So she apologizes, saying that she gave it her all, which wasn't enough. Gwen goes next for the villains. There we go. And when Bridgette is about to all. Okay, I'm sorry. Gwen goes next for the villains when Bridgette is about halfway through the obstacle course, and like the original, I'm sorry. Behind the scenes, I don't know why I wrote it like this in the script. I don't know why I wrote the line about Bridgette going to talk to Heather before writing the line about Gwen going when Bridgette is like halfway through the obstacle course. I don't know. Just ignore that, okay? It's a little bit of a fault in the script. But Gwen goes when Bridgette is about halfway through the obstacle course, okay? Oh my god. I needed to take a break after that. I don't know what is going on. I mean, to be fair, I did like just wake up while I'm making this, so. Anyway, Gwen goes next for the villains, and she does fine, not too well though, like the original. And she throws up on the obstacle course part, eliminating her. So let me grab her. Okay, and then Chris then shows a chart showing that the villains are 2/3 of the way done with their pancake, and the heroes are only 2/5 of the way done. Mike then goes for the heroes. And Lashana goes for the villains. Let me just get her there. Lashana eats a lot of pancake, but takes a while on the obstacle course, but keeps the pancake down, leaving the villains with only 1/6 of the pancake left to finish. Mike eats a lot of the pancake, like the original, and then when he makes it to the salad spinner, changes mode so it malfunctions, causing Lashana to be eliminated because, Mal came out and changed the mode of the salad spinner. So let me get Lashana out of here. So Alejandro then goes next for the villains, and Zoe goes next for the heroes. Also, I'll move Mike. Zoe eats a lot of the pancake, and does really well on the obstacle course, but Alejandro doesn't have much pancake to eat, and does really well at the obstacle course, meaning the villains win immunity and a night at the spa hotel. And Jo offers to go to Boney Island, because she wants to look for the immunity idol. Now on to the vote for the heroes. Bridgette and DJ, let me get them here. Vote for Mike. What are you doing? Bridgette and DJ vote for Heather because, obviously. But DJ or Zoe bonded a lot with Heather and is able to convince Mike to switch their votes to DJ. And as I said, DJ instead of Bridgette because Zoe is a lot closer with Bridgette. So, you know. Obviously, I don't know what is going on with me. Zoe apologizes to DJ as he walks off to the dock of shame after he's been announced the loser. So there we go. And then Bridgette catches up with him and apologizes that he's going home so soon. DJ tells her not to worry about it as they can meet up again after she wins the $1 million. And then DJ is flushed away. Okay. Moving on to the next episode. Okay. So this episode starts with Mal tripping Heather so she falls into dirt. Let me get her there. Heather complains a lot and then goes to wash up. And Zoe realizes that Mike just tripped Heather. And she's really confused and doesn't know what to do. So goes to check on Heather and sees that Heather changed into some sweats and a jumper, with her messy hair tied up in a bun. This outfit is an outfit pretty similar to Joe's. For any of you wondering, it's a pretty similar outfit to Joe's. Zoe is shocked as she's never seen Heather wear something so casual. And Heather admits that she's not used to them, but had to cover up the dirt stains. Plus, she's been feeling a bit off lately. Anyway, then Heather starts to miss Scott as he's at Boney Island. Wait, no, he's not at Boney Island. Courtney starts to miss Scott, but since he's not at Boney Island, she goes to the boys' side of the mansion because they're in the spa hotel. And right when she's about to knock on the door, it swings open and Scott is standing there grinning. Get them over here. There we go. Courtney slaps him and tells him she can get the door herself. She can get this door herself, which leads to Scott saying she looks even angrier and pretty in the morning, which makes Courtney blush. Joe has a similar scene to Scott originally on Boney Island, where she's getting chased by the animals, but Geoff rescues her, but then she gets hit into a bunch of trees as she gloats to the animals. When she returns and sees Heather wearing sweats and asks why Little Miss Model is coming for her style. Lashawna asks if she's seeing double Joes or is Heather wearing sweats. This causes everyone to laugh at Heather, which makes Heather feel really insecure. But Zoe stands up for Heather, saying she can wear whatever she wants, and it's nobody else's business but hers. This causes all the laughing to die down, and everyone goes silent. Then Chris breaks the awkward silence by announcing the nighttime challenge. The challenge is to race to the far end of the island, and whichever team has all their members cross first wins immunity. But they have to avoid the island's creatures, since the vultures won the last challenge, they get a map, and the heroes have to wear sausage, tail, and bacon hats. While racing, Heather notices Bridgette seems down and asks her if she's okay. Let me just get them here. There we go. Bridgette asks if she's really speaking to Heather, as she's surprised that Heather's actually asking her if she's okay. And Heather asks her who else she could be, and Bridgette responds saying she never thought she'd see Heather wearing sweats and asking someone if they were okay. Heather again asks if she's doing okay, and Bridgette tells her she hasn't felt too good ever since DJ got eliminated, and she's feeling kind of down, like she maybe should quit. Heather tells her she knows how hard it must feel, but DJ would want her to continue. Bridgette feels touched and tells Heather she didn't expect those words from her, and Heather tries to cover up saying she wants to win the challenge, and that requires everyone at their best. Mike has the idea to follow the other team as they have a map while at their best. Wait, what? Okay. Mike has the idea to follow the other team as they have a map, so obviously that would be the best place to go. And while Mike is leading, Zoe talks to Bridgette. So let me get there. And Heather. Oh, oops. Okay. Zoe talks to Bridgette and Heather and tells them that she saw Mike trip Heather earlier, and both of them are pretty surprised as they thought Mike was a pretty good and chill person. But they both agree to vote him off at the next elimination ceremony. But Zoe is unsure. She really likes Mike, but also thinks he's been acting pretty strange lately. Then the blue moon takes effect on the animals, making good animals bad and bad animals good. And now Mal is fully in control. Scott gets attacked by a gang of bunnies, which causes him to get separated from his team. So let me just separate him. Look at him, he's over there. Mal runs off by himself to leave the girls to fight the animals by themselves. And the villains make it to the bridge, and Gwen leaves because she doesn't want to cross the rope bridge because she's seen a bunch of movies and she just assumes it's going to collapse. Then Scott shows up and runs across the bridge screaming, and then he gets attacked by a beaver, when he gets to the other side. And it cuts the bridge in half, but everyone crosses successfully, and Courtney cuts the bridge so the other team can't cross it. Zoe, Bridgette, and Heather make it to the bridge, and Mike meets up with them, and he lies saying that he got attacked by a bear, but Zoe catches on that he's lying. The heroes have no way to cross the bridge, so they start running the direction Gwen went, hoping to pass her. The villains make it to the finish line, but Gwen isn't with them, and Courtney gets attacked by a deer, leading to Gwen saving her. The heroes are about to win, but Mal turns back into Mike, allowing Courtney and Gwen to pass him, and the villains win immunity and a night at the spa hotel. Bridgette and Heather try desperately to convince Zoe to vote for Mike, because not only did he cost the team the challenge, but he's also been acting really weird lately, and is always around when bad things happen. Zoe is really unsure all the way and up until the vote, but at the last second, she comes to a decision. And Mike is eliminated. That's Bridgette. Mike is eliminated. But not... Wait, no. Mike is voted off. Wait, that didn't happen. Mike is voted off, but not eliminated. Pretend I said that. It seems much cooler. Because Chris sends him to the villains team. Mike is shocked that Zoe voted him off, and she apologizes, but thinks that he needs doctor's advice because of how weird he's been acting lately. And Scott volunteers for Boney Island for the villains to search for the idol, and then the episode ends with the teams being very, what's the word? Unequal? Unequal? Non-equal? I don't know. Look at the teams, it's 3-7. Oh, gosh. I mean, at least on the bright side, we only have 2 elimination episodes left until the merge. So even if the heroes lose both of them, they'll at least have one member make it to the merge. Yay. Okay, next episode. This episode starts with Bridgette and Heather comforting Zoe as she feels terrible for voting off Mike. To reassure her that it was the right call, and he needs medical help. Zoe fights back, saying that he's not gone home though. He's on a team of villains where he's probably being tortured because of her. Then it flashes to the night where Mal goes around destroying everyone's belongings. This challenge had the contestants visit the fun zone on Boney Island, which is just an enclosure of dangerous mutant creatures. The teams have to collect 6 eggs each, and place them in their team's basket, and whoever collects the most eggs gets a reward in the next challenge. Zoe and Mike run into each other during the challenge, and Zoe asks him how he's been doing on the villains team. Let me just get them both here. There we go. He replies saying that they're just being villains, but he isn't too bothered by them. Zoe apologizes again for voting him off, and Mike forgives her, saying he knows he's been acting pretty weird lately. Then there's a few seconds of awkward silence before Joe finds them and pulls Mike away, saying he can't talk to the enemy team. So let me just get him over here. Because he can't talk to the enemy team. That's bad. The two wave bye to each other while frowning as Joe pulls Mike away. Alejandro collects the first egg for the villains team by knocking it off a cliff, and Heather picks it up after he knocks it down, and Alejandro chases her because he's worried she's going to steal it and put it in, obviously, the heroes team's basket, but to his surprise, she places it in the villains team's basket. Alejandro warns her to watch out as she might turn into a good person. Heather tells him if he wants to say that again, as if he does, she'll knock him cold off his hands. Alejandro then has a confessional saying, "There's the feisty girl he loves to tease." Alejandro stays to guard his team's basket so the heroes can't steal from it. And then Zoe has the same plan to distract Larry while someone else sneaks in to grab the eggs. So she goes to find Bridgette, who is having no luck finding eggs and is happy to help. The plan goes as normal, but when Bridgette picks up the egg and tries to run, she trips on a low to the ground vine, and the egg breaks open, revealing a tiny Larry. Bridgette realizes she has no choice but to take this baby Larry back to her team's nest. She volunteers to watch her team's eggs. So let me get her there. So was Alejandro. She volunteers to watch her team's nest as she states that baby Larry could try climbing out, or someone could try taking him, while glaring at Alejandro. After Zoe leaves, Alejandro states that she is the most beautiful when taking care of children. He does this mainly just to tease her, after what she did to him on World Tour. Bridgette puts her head down to his level and tells him whatever he's trying to do won't work on her, as she's going strong on her team. Alejandro claims the opposite, as if they lose, Heather and Zoe are way closer and will clearly stick together. Bridgette thinks about this and realizes that he's right. Alejandro then says that he's not even her Alejandro then says not even her children are fond of her, as he points to Larry, who has escaped from the hero's basket. Bridgette tries desperately to catch him, but fails miserably. Alejandro states that a klutz like her will never survive in the real world. Bridgette frowns as she keeps trying to catch Larry, but fails to catch little mini Larry. Joe is scolding Mike about talking to Zoe because obviously she's on the other team, so that's bad. And she states that he must be aware of his surroundings and focus on the game, and never let anything knock him down. She then accidentally walks face first into a tree and falls to the ground. But then an egg falls out of the tree and it lands in her hands. She tells Mike to keep searching for eggs while she puts the egg back in the basket, and she warns him to not get distracted by the other team again. I can't talk. Help. Anyway, okay. Mike lets out a loud groan and goes to search for more eggs. Mike is thinking about how weird he's been acting lately and maybe if he should quit, but he also thinks about Zoe and how he thinks she deserves better than someone like him. He frowns and kicks a rock, but it turns out to be an egg. He rushes back to put it in the hero's basket, but as he does, it cracks open from Mike's previous kick, and Mike leaves Alejandro to deal with it. Bridgette smirks at Alejandro, asking now who's having trouble taking care of their children. Alejandro groans as he fights back the creature from escaping. Scott and Courtney, let me just get them here. Scott and Courtney search for eggs together, and Scott takes Courtney's hand, telling her he has her back. They look into each other's eyes for a second before Scott is pulled into the ground by a giant mole. Courtney uses a stick to beat the mole back underground, and they collect his egg. Gwen and Lashawna decide to search for eggs together, but Lashawna notices that Gwen seems quiet and asks her if she's okay. Gwen admits that I should actually put them together, right? Okay. Gwen admits that Gwen admits that she's been feeling pretty down lately, as she's been trying so hard to get Courtney back as a friend, but she's completely forgotten about Duncan, her own boyfriend. Lashana thinks for a second before asking Gwen if she can be honest. Gwen really needs advice, so she agrees. And Lashana recalls one time herself, Duncan, and Gwen went out for dinner, and Duncan couldn't keep Courtney's name off his lips. All he thinks about every day is Courtney, and although they seem quite similar at first, they're actually really different. Gwen is emotional, deep, and caring, while Duncan is aggressive, rough, and clearly has a weird relationship with women. Gwen thinks about it for a bit, and then thanks Lashana for her help. Lashana says it's nothing, and then she spots an egg, and they rush back to the basket, where they see that Heather has also found an egg, meaning the heroes have 2 and the villains have 5, meaning the villains only need 1 more egg. Heather tries taking the bird's egg, but it gets knocked off the cliff. Oh, I should probably actually say, yeah, no, she's there, it's fine. Heather tries taking the bird's egg, but it gets knocked off the cliff, and the egg cracks, and she finds the immunity idol, but like the original, she hides it, and Alejandro steals it. She also takes another egg from the nest, meaning the heroes have 3. And then Zoe finds the giant nest with a bunch of eggs, and she quickly gathers Bridgette and Heather, so they can, grab the nest and run back to their team. So they grab it and carry back a bunch of eggs, but as they're running back, Courtney appears with the villain's final egg. She throws it to Scott, and well, I'm gonna get them out of here to make this more suspenseful. She throws it to Scott, and it cracks on his head, meaning the heroes win immunity and a night at the spa hotel. Courtney walks over and scolds Scott for costing them the challenge, and he replies in gibberish as he's dazed and confused. Before everyone leaves the island, Heather goes to get her idol, but it's not there. And when she meets up with everyone else, she yells at Chris as she thinks he took her idol. Zoe apologizes to Heather and Bridgette when they get to the spa hotel, as she kind of lashed out at them this morning and feels bad. It's just she's been worried about Mike, especially since he's going to elimination. Heather and Bridgette comfort her and understand she's stressed, and they remind her that Mike can hold his own. Then Mike has a confessional where he hits himself in the head with a rock, trying to make his other personalities come out, but instead he just allows Mal to take full control. At the elimination, Gwen makes a deal with Courtney, saying she's decided to break up with Duncan, and she wants Courtney's friendship back, even saying she'll vote with Courtney's way tonight. Courtney agrees and tells Gwen to vote off Alejandro. Gwen is able to convince Lashana too, because obviously Lashana wants revenge on him, and Joe and Mal agree. Joe because she really doesn't like Alejandro, and Mal figures he should go along with this, as he's new to the team, so it's better to just stick with the majority. Also, he knows the merge will probably be coming up soon, and Alejandro is a huge challenge threat. So, in a 6-1 vote, Alejandro was voted off, but not eliminated. As obviously he plays Heather's idol. Heather starts going off on him for stealing her totem, but there's nothing she can do about it, obviously. So she just has to sit down angrily while Zoe tries to calm her down. Courtney and Gwen both ask what happens now, and then they laugh together, and Alejandro smirks and says he hates to ruin a happy reunion, but Gwen is out. Chris reveals this to be true, as Alejandro voted for Gwen, and everyone else voted for Alejandro. Courtney is super upset, but Gwen sighs and says that it's okay, and she only came back to make things right with Courtney, and now that that's done, she can go. Lashana and Courtney say goodbye to her as she leaves, and Courtney finally forgives her, and Lashana whispers "about time" under her breath, which gets her a glare from both Courtney and Scott. And if you're wondering why Alejandro voted for Gwen, it's because now that Gwen and Courtney are friends again, they have like a 4-person alliance, which could dominate the game, as Courtney and Scott are very close, and so are Lashana and Gwen. But if Gwen and Courtney are eliminated, this falls apart, and he chose Gwen because if Courtney's gone, Scott and Gwen become pretty neutral towards each other. But he's seen in previous seasons like action and knows that if Gwen's gone, Courtney and LaShawna will fight, as we literally just saw. So that is why he chose Gwen, if you're wondering. Okay, final episode before the merge. Who's not gonna make the merge? Place your predictions below. Okay. This episode starts with Courtney being annoyed that Gwen left right when they were starting to become friends again. LaShawna says she's glad they can finally agree on something. Courtney says that they weren't agreeing, just thinking the same as each other. LaShawna gets annoyed and starts swearing at Courtney, but Joe's loud working out noises covers her swear. LaShawna and Courtney turn to Joe and yell at her to shut up at the same time. Joe rolls her eyes and searches through her bag for her weights, but when she finds them, she sees that they're broken and bent, and starts blaming the other girls, and they all get into a fight. Mal is seen smirking on the boy side of the cabin as he listens to the girls fight through the wall. In a confessional, he states... Give me a second. In a confessional, he states that now that Gwen's gone, the girls will be ripping each other's hair out, and will definitely target each other when they next lose. Alejandro notices Mike's smirk, and is about to question him about it, but Chris interrupts him, and he announces the next challenge. This challenge had the contestants spin a wheel, and whatever fear they landed on, they have to win a boxing fight with them to get a point. The first team to 3 points wins, and since Zoe won the last challenge, she doesn't have to fight, and the heroes get a free point. Scott goes first for the villains, over here. And I really don't know what his fear... Wait, no. I was reading the wrong thing. And he obviously gets Fan, like the original. And Scott loses miserably. And then Bridgette goes next, or first, for the heroes, and I really don't know what her fear would be. But since her fear in Island was being left alone in the woods, she has to fight Cody. Let me just bring him up here. There we go. Yeah, she has to fight Cody. And obviously, like, Cody's not her fear, but he's covered in trash, as that's what scared her out of the forest or woods in Island, because, you know, like, he was covered in trash and, like, looked like a giant monster and stuff. But since Chris thinks this is a pretty boring fear, as it's just Cody, and Bridgette could easily win, he adds a few mutated, trash-covered creatures, and Bridgette loses this fight because, you know, she's pretty passive, like, she's not, like, that aggressive, and she'd feel bad about fighting Cody, and it's not just even Cody, it's just, like, it's these giant mutant creatures, meaning it's still 1 heroes, 0 villains. Alejandro then goes... Wait, let me move these guys. Cody's cameo time is up. Oh, look at him with Sierra. He's so happy to be reunited with Sierra. Oh. Anyway. Oh no, that's Courtney. Alejandro then goes next for the villains and lands on Jose. And, when... Don't know if you guys heard that, but it's just an alert. Thought I turned my phone on silent. It's fine. Anyway, moving on. Alejandro goes for villains, and he lands on Jose. But since he, like, desperately wants to win this fight, he reveals now that he can walk. And he stops walking on his hands. And like the original, he's able to beat Jose up after he calls Heather unattractive. And when Heather hears this, she starts blushing, but when Alejandro points this out, she slaps him across the face. This makes the team scores even, with 1-1. Then Heather goes for the heroes, and she gets a sumo wrestler, and in a nice little callback to Island, she ducks when the sumo wrestler runs at her, causing him to fall out of the ring and just bounce into the woods, and Heather scores a point. Cameron isn't here to call out the wheel being fake, so everyone still gets personal opponents. Joe goes next for the villains. Let me get her there. and she states that she's fearless, and Lashana is seen looking nervous. Wait, what? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, wait, that didn't happen, okay? Ignore that silence. So, go back a few seconds, but don't actually, like, just in your mind go back a few seconds. Don't actually, though. Uh, Joe states that she's fearless, and Lashana is seen looking very nervous, but then she says that she was going to volunteer, but if Joe wants to, she'll let it slide. The villains then all look at Lashana as she laughs nervously. And now, I have no idea what Joe's fear would be, but I think it would be nice. And especially for an All-Star season, I think a lot of cameos would be nice. To make it Brick. Wait, let me get him up here. As it's clear that they like each other, like it's been hinted at a lot. So her fear would be like having to beat him up. When Brick arrives, he refuses to fight a fellow soldier, as it is not honorable. But as he finishes talking, Joe starts to beat him up, and wins a point for their wins the second point for their team. Meaning that the next person who scores a point wins. Now let me get Brick out of here. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have him interrupt Sierra and Cody. Go hang out with Izzy. I feel like Brick and Izzy would be a fun little interaction. Okay, Joe, you can go back to your team. Okay, so now this means that the next person to score a point wins. So now one of the heroes has to go again, and since Heather is still shaken up from the sumo wrestler, Bridgette volunteers. And she has to fight Lashana's fear, which is a giant spider. And as it appears, Lashana points out that that's no ordinary spider, and it's revealed to be Izzy. Oh, Brick can't hang out with Izzy anymore. Go hang out with Katie. Sure. Yeah, go hang out with Katie. She could use some development. Anyway. Oh yeah, I don't know if I said it, but Lashana's fear is Izzy. And I think that this honestly makes a lot more sense than Cameron's fear originally, as Lashana was revealed to be scared of spiders and phobia factor, and she hates Izzy. And Bridgette clearly loses this fear, because, well, it's Izzy. And since Chris knows that the game is going to end soon, he forces Courtney to go, as he wants to see her fight against Gwen. So he just like does a thing like where he just forces Courtney to go. Oh, Izzy, you can go. Actually, Izzy and Leonard, I'd like to see that interaction. Who's more crazy, Izzy or Leonard? I mean, definitely Izzy. But, crazy in a good way, crazy in a bad way. Anyway, yeah, Chris forces Courtney to go because he wants to see her fight Gwen, and he knows that the challenge is probably going to end soon. So Courtney has to fight Gwen, and the same scene happens where they try to refuse to fight each other. So then Chris reminds Courtney of everything Gwen did, and they beat each other up. But then they officially become friends again, and they end their fight. And for bringing warmth to Chris's cold heart, the villains win immunity. Gwen then quickly says goodbye to like Courtney and Lashana before she's taken away. And now the villains win immunity. Again, these poor heroes. Okay. Now, this vote is interesting because it's not up to the heroes. It's the villain's decision. And there's a lot of discussion, but after a few seconds, Alejandro pipes up and says he'd like to eliminate Bridgette. Everyone is shocked as they didn't all agree, but Chris says that the first name a villain says counts. Bridgette is pretty relaxed as she already had her time to shine in World Tour and thinks someone else deserves the chance. Alejandro waves goodbye to her as she leaves while smirking evilly. Heather and Zoe say goodbye to her as she leaves, and Bridgette tells Heather that she's so proud of Heather for growing so much as a person. Heather quietly says thanks as she's trying not to get mushy, but she does really appreciate Bridgette. Bridgette asks Zoe to promise her something, and Zoe agrees, saying she'd do anything. And Bridgette asks her to be careful of Mike, as he's been acting very weird lately, and she's pretty sketched out by him. And a little bit nervous that he might not be Mike anymore. Zoe is confused to what Bridgette means, but Chris flushes Bridgette away before she can explain. And now the final two heroes get to choose which villain goes to Boney Island, and they obviously choose Alejandro for eliminating Bridgette. And if you don't remember my World Tour What If, the reason Alejandro eliminated Bridgette is because Bridgette, like, humiliated him on international TV, and, like, now he's got revenge on her. Sweet, sweet revenge. Yay! And we are now at the merge. Okay, this first merge episode starts with Zoe having a meltdown because two of her best friends, Bridgette and Cameron, have just been eliminated, and she's now on a team of two because they're still, like, on their teams. I've separated them to villains and heroes. And she doesn't know if she can trust her own boyfriend. Heather tries comforting her, but in a confessional she states that she's never been very good at comforting people, so she thinks back to when she had to babysit her cousin, and how she dealt with all the crying. So, she slaps Zoe across the face. She then realizes what she's done and starts apologizing, but Zoe stops her, saying she needed that. Chris then calls everyone to the front of the cabins and officially announces the merge. Zoe and Heather agree to stick together no matter what, and Mike asks if he can join their alliance. Let me get him over here. And Zoe nods her head immediately, and Heather hesitates, but eventually nods slowly, but in a confessional says she has her suspicions about Mike ever since Bridgette warned them about him last night, but she doesn't want to bring that up in front of Zoe, and also him, because obviously, like, Zoe's been having a hard time about the whole thing, and she doesn't want to say that to him, obviously. Zoe then has a confessional asking tarot cards what's next for Mike, and she sees an evil leprechaun in his future. She sighs as she doesn't want to believe something's happening to Mike, but she kind of knows that something is happening to him. Then we see into Mike's head where he sees a tower in the distance of his mind, and starts running towards it and finds Chester selling skateboards for Mal, and he might convince him to defeat Mal. Then we come back to reality, and Chris announces the challenge. The challenge is racing around the island in boats, while Chef tries sinking their boats. The first to cross the finish line wins immunity. Scott and Courtney go together, so let me put them together. Because, you know, Scott's really, like, Courtney's only real ally at the moment. And they ride in the boat Courtney and Gwen rode in originally. Alejandro rides in the boat he originally rode in and he goes by himself because, only one person can win immunity, so he doesn't want to have to, like, make that decision at the end. And then Mike then makes it to the boats and starts sabotaging all but one of them, and then rides by himself. By himself. Yeah. Okay. Joe makes it to the boats at this point, though, and catches Mal doing this, and confronts him about it, but Mal pretends to not hear her while he sails away. This then leaves Zoe, Heather, Joe, and Lashana on the raft. Alejandro's boat engine stops, allowing Scott and Courtney and Mal to pass him. So he's like, this is first, this is last. Okay. Scott tries complimenting Courtney, but it comes out weird, so he flexes his muscles. He flexes his muscles instead, which Courtney giggles at, but then Chef starts throwing coconuts at them. So Scott stands above Courtney, covering her from all the coconuts, but when they pass Coconut Alley, Scott is dazed, and Courtney says he's a true gentleman and kisses him on the cheek. This causes Scott to collapse to the floor, and Courtney tries pulling him up, meaning their boat stops, and this allows Chef to drop TNT on it, busting the engine. And then at this point, Alejandro's fixed his boat, and he continues on in the race. and Mal pretty much has the opportunity to pass them at this point. The raft people accept that they have no chance at winning, so Joe uses this time to tell them all about Mal and how they need to vote him off immediately. However, no one obviously believes her, because it's Joe. No one's gonna believe her. Zoe tells her to be quiet as she knows Mike is in control. She tries to sound commanding and confident, but everyone can tell she's kind of worried and unsure. Lashana puts her hand on Zoe's shoulder and stands up to Joe, asking her if she actually expects them to believe her when she says that sweet little Mike is evil. She then states that he's about as evil as her sugar baby back home, Harold. While Joe and Lashana are fighting loudly, Heather quietly thinks to herself, Courtney and herself. What's that thing called? Like, full stop. Courtney and Scott accept defeat until Scott notices Fang approaching their boat. Also, I think at this point, Alejandro's pretty much past them. Scott notices Fang approaching their boat, so he ties himself with rope to a stick and tells Courtney to hold on to the stick. And he basically does the same plan as the original, with Fang chasing Scott being their engine. Originally, Chef threw TNT at the raft, but now that it's basically not in the race at all, he wouldn't waste TNT on it, because now, why would he? Like, there's no chance that they're going to win it anyway. Also, let me just get... My mouse is freaking out over there. So this means that he now has an extra TNT to throw at someone, and I think he chooses Mike's boat because it's the furthest along in the race, and he doesn't want to disturb the entertainment of watching Fang chase Scott, so he throws TNT at Alejandro, or Mike's boat. Originally, Zoe put herself in danger to see if Mike would try to save her, but now they're too far back to have this plan work, as Mike probably wouldn't even see Zoe to come save her. And because Mal's engine broke, Alejandro is able to get to the end and win immunity. In a fit of rage, Courtney drops the stick holding up Scott, and he falls into the water, allowing Fang to chew him up. Courtney immediately pulls him out of the water, apologizing, and Scott looks at her and says that she's worth becoming shark bait as he kisses her. Zoe takes a moment to say "aw" before having an idea, not the idea, an idea. Yeah. Oh my god, why is my mouse freaking out? I don't know if you guys can see that on the video, but my mouse is freaking out. I'm just gonna take it off the screen. So Zoe has the idea to jump into the water and pretend to drown to see if Mike will save her. And Mal jumps into the water and saves her, otherwise it would look suspicious that he didn't save her. But in a confessional says that this girl is more needy than he thought. Mal carries her back to the cabin to dry her off, and Zoe thanks him and says she knew he was still... Also, I should probably put them together. Zoe thanks him and tells him she knew that he was still him, even after what Joe was saying. Mal asks her to elaborate, and Zoe tells him everything Joe was saying about Mike not being the main personality. Mal grows a deadly face before wiping it away to laugh it off with Zoe. But in a confessional, Mal says he knows what he needs to do. And at the elimination, Chris announces a unanimous vote, and the person getting the flush of shame is... Oh my god, my mouse keeps freaking out. Maybe I should remove my mouse. But there, I think my mouse is gone now. Hopefully. If not, it doesn't really matter. The person getting the flush of shame is Joe. Joe starts yelling, saying she didn't vote for herself. Everyone else is confused too, as no one voted for her. And Joe curses everyone out as she's dragged away by Chris and Chef. Then it plays back Mal rigging the votes against Joe, because obviously she was on to him not being the real deal. Yeah. Okay. Next episode. This episode starts with Heather wanting to talk to Zoe about Mal, but she notices how happy Zoe is and how she seems 1000% less stressed and doesn't want to worry her without proof. So she goes to find someone else she can trust. And then Lashana has a confessional saying as much as she wanted Joe out, something wasn't right about her elimination, and obviously someone tampered with the votes. And Joe, suspecting Mike, kept her up last night, as she has noticed the boy to be a bit weird. She then hears a knock on the confessional door, and she opens it to see Heather. And then she slams the door. Wait, this is just like suspense. Okay, I haven't lost where I was reading from. Okay, Heather barges in annoyed, telling Lashawna she needs to tell her something. Lashawna says she'd never hear Heather out after 3 seasons of her bad attitude. Heather reminds her that she saved her from the Leech in the 3rd challenge and asks her to at least hear her out. Lashawna groans and tells Heather she has 60 seconds. Heather tells her she knows the votes were rigged against Joe, as it was a unanimous vote, and Mike has been acting extremely weird. Heather lists off all the weird things he's done, like being around people before their items broke, seeming to ignore or being annoyed with Zoe, his own girlfriend, who he seemed to love, lying about being attacked by a bear in the 5th challenge, and just seeming to have a really weird, sketchy vibe going on in general. Lashawna fears Heather is right, but doesn't want to admit it, so she asks Heather what she's suggesting. Heather brings up Mike's DID, as Zoe told her about it in the past, because obviously they're close, and she's worried Mike might be an alternate personality, and she suggests that they search the cabins for evidence against Joe's elimination. Mike and Zoe open the confessional door to Heather and Lashawna's surprise. Wait, they're here, but I'll just move them over a little bit. And Heather nervously asks them how much they heard. Zoe tells them that they only heard them talking about Joe's elimination. Both Heather and Lashawna breathe a sigh of relief. Then Mal asks them if they want to search the cabin together, as they both nervously agree. After inspecting the cabins for a while, eventually Lashawna finds the rigged votes under Alejandro's pillow. Lashawna crushes them with her hand, saying Al went too far this time. Chris then announces the challenge, as Lashawna angrily makes her way to Chris, followed by Mal and Zoe. Heather is left alone, as she has a troubled look on her face while holding the votes in her hand. Alejandro spots her and accuses her of rigging the votes and trying to blame him. Heather immediately defends herself, saying she found them under his pillow, but she thinks Mike. She's then cut off by Chris, who tells them to make their way to the challenge again. Alejandro looks back in disappointment towards Heather before running towards the challenge, with Heather following behind him slowly. Scott and Courtney have the same cute scene where they fall on top of each other and then accidentally kiss. There's then a few seconds of awkward silence before Courtney pulls him in for another kiss, and Scott makes a ring out of his shoelace, asking Courtney to go out with him, which she accepts. Chris announces the 100th episode of Total Drama, but as he does, Ezekiel attacks him and kidnaps him. Should I bring Zeke up? Yeah, because I'll bring Chris up, and then I'll also bring up Zeke. Here we go, and look, there he is. It's Zeke. Woo! Oh my god, my voice crack. Chef announces the next challenge, which is to find and save Chris. They start off in the mine because that's where they think they'll find Chris. Scott and Courtney go together because they're a new couple. So there. Alejandro goes alone, but Heather follows quickly after him, which leaves Lashawna, Zoe, and Mike to all go together. Because Lashawna wants revenge on Alejandro. Lashawna starts ranting about how Al is going to get what he deserves once she finds him, and this causes her to fall down a tunnel, with Zoe jumping after her. But Mal goes down his own tunnel, leaving the girls. When Alejandro gets his boot stuck in between a rock, he accepts that he won't be able to win immunity, but a few minutes later, Heather shows up and frees his boot from the rock. Alejandro grunts and asks her if she thinks this will make up for trying to rig the votes against him, to add to his insecurities and add to her perfectness. Yeah. Heather is about to fight him, but then she thinks to herself and says no. Alejandro is confused, but Heather tells him that she's the exact opposite of perfect. And sure, she may look perfect from the outside. As she says this, Alejandro rolls his eyes. But she's actually a little lost and sort of broken on the inside. Heather says in a shaken voice, Alejandro Alejandro is confused. Wait. Oh, yeah. Okay. Heather says in a shaken voice, full stop. Alejandro is confused, but puts a hand on her shoulder, telling her to continue. Heather opens up, saying her parents tried shifting her personality when she was younger. They told her what to wear, how to act, and completely made up her personality. They even went as far as to make sure she doesn't go overweight. She always tried to impress them, but it always led to an argument, until they got divorced. It wasn't until she left for Total Drama and returned home that she realized that they got back together after she left. She's always felt clueless to who she was as a person, but now is finally finding out about herself. Heather then clings to Alejandro as she finally allows herself to cry. A few minutes later, Alejandro pulls her off and reminds her that she is the most beautiful and perfect thing he has ever laid eyes on, and she doesn't need two people who barely matter in her life to know that. They look into each other's eyes for a second before sharing a long, passionate kiss. I don't know why I wrote it like that. Yeah, they share a long and passionate kiss. Look at them go. Zoe and Lashana are trapped in the cave together, and Zoe still uses her blow out the candle trick on Lashana to get her to focus more on the game and less on Alejandro. Because obviously she's been very determined on bringing down Alejandro, she's not really focusing on the game. Chris starts triggering Ezekiel by bringing up all the ways he's humiliated him, which leads to Zoe getting captured by Zeke, leaving Lashana alone as she starts to take out her frustration on Alejandro by kicking a rock. But it just ends up hurting her foot. This reminds Lashana that if she invests all of her time and energy into taking revenge on Alejandro, she could lose the chance at the million again. Scott and Courtney fall on top of Mal, and then Zeke finds them. I don't know why I read it like that. Scott and Courtney fall on top of Mal. Well, actually, I should probably move him over there. And then Zeke finds them. Yeah. Oh, shoot. Yeah, Zeke found them. Yeah, and then Zeke finds them. Mal pushes Courtney into Zeke and runs off, but Scott stays and tries to save Courtney, which ends in them both getting captured. So I'll just put them over here. As they're talking, they fall down a hole and find Lashana and Mal. Wait. No. As they're talking, they fall down a hole and find Lashana. I guess... Wait, who finds Lashana? Alejandro? Is Alejandro? I don't know. I don't know what's going on, honestly. Oh yeah, Mal is with Alejandro and Heather. Not me realizing my own storyline. God, I hate myself. Oh, God. Anyway. Yeah, these four are all together now, okay? Just trying to catch everyone up on the storyline. Mal sees this as the perfect opportunity to cause some conflict, so pushes Alejandro into Lashana. Wait, let me get them over here. Causing them to kiss. Lashana starts going crazy, and she pushes Alejandro to the ground and takes Heather's hand, and they run off. Let me get Heather over here. Lashana apologizes to Heather, saying she promises she didn't want to kiss Alejandro. Heather slows her down, saying she doesn't think either of them wanted to kiss each other. Lashana tells her that she saw Alejandro kiss her, and there's no explanation. Heather starts talking about how she thinks it was Mike, but when she looks back, she sees that Lashana has been taken by Zeke. And Mike also gets captured by Zeke while he's wandering around. Oh, well, I think was Zoe captured by Zeke? I don't know. Potentially. I'm just going to leave her here for now. I'll put her here so that she maybe was captured by Zeke, but also maybe not. Oh, God. Heather finds a cave. Zeke is keeping Chris in. Yeah, I don't know why I read that so awkwardly. Chef runs past her and whacks the rats off the rope, holding Chris, before getting shot by Zeke, and shoots her, with a pasta launcher. Heather attempts to sneak behind Zeke, but he spots her and shoots her with pasta. But she dodges it. However, this causes rocks to fall, but out of nowhere, Alejandro pushes Heather out of the way of the rocks, but he gets trapped in the rock. Also, yeah, Zoe was captured. And Alejandro got crushed by rocks. Zeke goes to investigate what just happened, which gives Heather the chance to hit him with the pasta launcher, saving Chris, winning immunity, and permanent residence in the spa hotel as long as she's in the game. Since Alejandro got hit by the rocks, he gets medevaced and eliminated. So I can move these guys down. Well, I'm just gonna. Oops. Okay, I fix it. Heather says goodbye to Alejandro and he wishes her luck, but she cuts him off, asking him what's even the point of a goodbye. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but someone is literally hoovering. Oh my god. Oh, I think like some people call it vacuuming. I call it hoovering. That sounds so stupid. Hoovering. I don't know. It's what I call it. Let me finish this up really quickly because. Anyway, Heather asks Alejandro what the point of a goodbye is, as she'll probably be joining him soon. Alejandro tells her that the Heather he knows would never give up when there's so much on the line. Then she smiles as Alejandro is flushed away. Goodbye, Alejandro. Bye, bye, bye. Also, Heather knows now she has to win for both Alejandro and herself. Oh my god, that Hoover is so... This next episode starts in the middle of the night, and Heather is unable to sleep. She decides to walk around the spa hotel so she can get tired. Since she's the only one there anyway, because she won the last challenge. She can't sleep as a million things are running through her mind, but the one that sticks out the most is the rigged votes under Alejandro's pillow. Something didn't feel right about it. Alejandro rigging the votes against Joe, and Heather something didn't feel right about Alejandro rigging the votes against Joe. And Heather thinks Alejandro was framed. But then she slows down and thinks to herself. Thinks of herself. She thinks to herself if it's really out of character for Alejandro to rig the votes. As she's second-guessing herself, she comes across the control room with all the cameras. She finds a disc labeled Mal's Greatest Hits. Heather is confused but decides to play the disc, where she sees all of the bad things Mal has done. She gets super excited as she knew something was up with Mike, and now she can show everyone. So she rushes back to bed as she can't wait to tell everyone tomorrow. The challenge this episode had the contestants run an obstacle course. First, they had to run through a field of tires with obstacles, but in between them. Then, they had to climb up a wooden ramp thing using different ropes. Then they had to climb monkey bars over a pond of snapping turtles. And finally, they had to sneak to the finish line while avoiding Chef with a leech cannon. All while wearing a heavy bag on their back. First, to complete the obstacle course wins immunity. While traveling through the tires, Heather tries warning Lashawna. Let me just get them both here. Heather tries warning Lashawna about Mal, but Lashawna starts laughing, asking Heather if she really thinks little Mal, or little Mike, is a threat. Heather starts to get frustrated, but she calms herself down, as she knows she has evidence and just needs to make sure Mal doesn't win immunity. Zoe and Mal take the lead, but when they get to the climbing rope section, Zoe gets slowed down by the dog-haired rope, which she's allergic to. This allows Mal, I guess I'll get him over here, to take the lead. And since he's climbing the licorice rope, he decides to take bites out of it to slow any person who climbs it next down. Lashawna takes the dog hair rope, and Lashawna takes the rope. Oh, wait, what? Lashawna takes the dog hair rope, and then Lashawna gets... Then Heather... Oh, I can't speak today. Then Heather gets to the rope section, and she takes the only available rope, which is the electric one. Heather gets slowed down a little bit, but in an action aftermath, Heather tells a story about her parents using electric zaps to make her a better person, and I think it was like electric therapy, or I don't know. It was like they electrocuted her to try and make her a better person. And since there's so much on the line, she pulls through and is able to climb the rope, but it does take quite a while. Then Courtney and Scott show up. There they are, showing up. And Courtney climbs the dog hair rope, which doesn't affect her, and Scott climbs the electric wire, which slows him down a lot. Mal uses Svetlana to climb over the snapping turtle bars, and Mal tries talking to Heather, but she shuts him down, saying she knows he's Mal, not Mike, so there's no point trying to fool her. Mal processes all this and picks Heather up to throw her into the snapping turtle pond, and then continue the race. Lashana sees this and helps Heather out of the pond and asks her if Mike really just tried to feed her to some turtles. Also, I should probably move these guys over here. Huh. That would make sense. Heather tells her again that he's not Mike and just tried to feed her to some turtles. Wait. And she has proof of Mal being Mal in the spa hotel. They just have to make sure that Mal doesn't win immunity. Lashana tells herself she can't believe she's helping Heather before agreeing to the plan. Mal and Zoe make it to the Leech field, and Zoe tells Mal she saw Lashana. These two. She saw Lashana fall into the turtle pond, and she isn't blaming him, but it kinda looked like he maybe possibly accidentally had a small hand in accidentally knocking her in. Mal starts stuttering as he doesn't know what to say, but before Zoe can investigate him further, she gets knocked back by a leech. Oh my god, she shouts to Mal to come back and help her, but he ignores her while smiling sinisterly. Heather catches up to Zoe and helps her up and tells her she has something very important. Well, I should probably move these over. She's something very important to tell her about Mike, but she can't explain right now, so tells Zoe to meet her at the spa hotel before elimination. Mal makes it to the zipline and he's confident he's going to win, but as he reaches into his bag to get the equipment, Lashana tackles him to the ground. Look at her go! So he's like over here, like she's like dragging him on the ground. And then she yells at Heather to go for immunity. And she does. Zoe shows up and goes off on Lashana for pinning down Mike, but Lashana whispers into Zoe's ear to meet her and Heather at the spa hotel. Then Chris announces Heather the winner of immunity, because she was able to win. Why did I say that? Okay. Lashana and Zoe meet outside the spa hotel. There. Lashana and Zoe meet outside the spa hotel, because, like, Heather told them to, so, like, obviously they do. I don't know what's going on. Zoe, is a little bit, like, distant towards Lashana for tackling Mike to the ground, and Lashana reassures her that, it will all make sense when Heather shows them this thing. At least, she hopes so, as she's not even sure if they can trust Heather anymore. Heather invites them in quickly and brings them to the control room, and she wastes no time and plays the DVD labeled Mal's Greatest Hits. Lashana is enraged that Mal would rig the votes, then blame Alejandro, and she feels bad for targeting him, but then she remembers it's Alejandro, and no longer feels bad. Zoe is heartbroken and says Mal is going down, but then Mal greets them at the door, complimenting Heather for her interesting find, before leaping over to grab it. But Lashana and Heather grab him. Well, I should probably be like acting this out over here. Lashana and Heather grab him, and like pin him down to the ground. So Mal like tosses the disc to Zoe, and Lashana and Heather yell at her to like break it. Wait, no, not break it. Lashana and Heather yell at her to protect it from Mal, but Mal simply says, "If I go down, so does Mike." Zoe hears these words, and without a second thought, smashes the DVD on the ground. Heather and Lashana are super confused, but they can't question Zoe, as Chris announces it's time for elimination. And at the campfire ceremony, in a 4-2 vote, Lashana is eliminated. Heather and Lashana are super confused and ask Zoe, Courtney, and Scott why they flipped. Zoe whispers to her that she couldn't lose Mike, while Courtney shrugs while saying they weren't very many options, and since she already isn't a big fan of Lashana from Action, plus Lashana could dominate the game in the final 5, Scott simply says what she said. Heather walks Lashawna to the dock of shame, while Lashawna tells Scott and Courtney to be careful of Mike. Or should she say, Mal? Scott and Courtney share a confused look, while Mal waves Lashawna goodbye. Lashawna apologizes. Heather apologizes to Lashawna, saying if she had used the zipline instead of her, if Lashawna had used the zipline instead of Heather, she would still be in the game. Lashawna tells her not to worry, as she came to do what she needed to do, and the Heather she knows wouldn't give up so close to the end. Heather waves goodbye to Lashawna while telling her to not let the toilet water make her hair look any worse than it already is. Heather then brings Courtney to the spa hotel to try and convince her to not trust Mal, and she obviously sends Mal to Boney Island. So Mal's going to Boney Island. These two are in the spa hotel. Yeah. Heather tries convincing Courtney that Mal is dangerous, but Courtney cuts Heather off, saying she appreciates Heather inviting her to the spa hotel, but she's asking Courtney to believe Heather over Mike. Heather collapses into her pillow while groaning. Mal has a confessional admitting he was a bit nervous when Lashawna and Heather exposed him, but now that Zoe still believes Mike is inside of him, and Scott and Courtney are unaware of how evil Mal is, things will work out great, especially after he breaks up Scott and Courtney. He laughs while pulling out Courtney's chart. Then, Mal gathers everyone around together to show them Courtney's chart. It has Zoe going out first, followed by... Wait, I should say Zoe going out first. Courtney's chart has Zoe being eliminated first, followed by Mike, and then Heather. And then she has herself and Scott make it to the finale, and she draws Scott with a rat tail, which is just terrible. Now the only one who's really mad at Courtney is Scott, because Heather knows Courtney doesn't like her, and Zoe doesn't know Courtney too well, and is more focused on Mal. This challenge had the contestants make an ice cream sundae for Chris's interns with ingredients scattered across the island. Mal tries talking to Zoe, but she cuts him off, saying she might have saved him, but that doesn't mean she likes him. Mal smiles, saying that's the way he likes it. Everyone collects their ice creams, with Heather taking the lead. So I'll have her take the lead. Courtney catches up with Heather and tells her that she would love to be a part of their alliance, as long as they get rid of Zoe. Heather tells her she's in no position to be making commands. They vote off Mal. That's final. Courtney groans, but knowing she has no choice, accepts. Heather helps Zoe escape from a crocodile and asks her if she's down to vote off Mal next. Zoe looks to the side and responds saying, I don't know. I'm scared if I get rid of Mal, I'll lose Mike. Heather tries convincing her that that won't happen, but Zoe isn't convinced. Courtney crosses the finish line first, but because a bird puked on her ice cream, Chris changes the rules to whoever finishes eating their ice cream first wins immunity. And like the original, Zoe wins immunity for eating her ice cream first, because the only new person here is Heather, and I don't think Heather would be very good at eating ice cream. She's not too good at eating challenges. And like the original, Courtney is booted out. Heather is upset because as much as she hates Courtney, she wants Mal gone. This episode starts with Heather giddy that she's the final OG member. However, she also knows that she can't get too excited and mess up now if she wants to win. She also knows she has to get rid of Mal, so she decides to talk to Scott, who isn't doing so good after losing Courtney. Heather slaps some sense into him and tells him if he wants Courtney back, he'll have to win for her, meaning they have to take down Mal. Scott quickly asks, who's Mal? Heather realizes Scott doesn't know about Mal, so she quickly tells him that Mike received brain damage and turned into this evil version of himself and went around destroying people's things and causing chaos. Then he rigged the votes against Joe, and Heather found evidence against him, but Zoe destroyed it, trying to save Mike. Then Mal eliminated Courtney so he can win. Scott tells her that all just went over his head. So Heather slowly tells him if he takes down Mal, Courtney will be proud of him and will probably want to marry him or something. Scott gets really excited and wants to eliminate Mal. Heather has a confessional saying Courtney probably won't care if Scott takes down Mal, but Scott doesn't need to know that. Zoe is feeling down as she betrayed all of her friends for Mal in hopes that he'll release Mike. Mal puts a hand on her shoulder and tells her she doesn't need any of those old friends after he wins. They can live happily together. Zoe asks him about Mike and if he'll let him go. Mal laughs. I'm sorry, I couldn't read what a word said. Mal laughs and says, "Sweetie, Mike's gone for good." Zoe refuses to believe that, but deep down inside, she's not sure if she believes herself. Chris calls everyone out front and starts the challenge. Each contestant must search for a valuable item around the island. They decide what to look for by opening chests. Zoe goes first and gets a Yeti. And originally Gwen went next, and since she's not here, I spun a wheel for everyone else because anyone could have gone next and gotten any chest, so it's really hard for me to say who would get what. So I just spun a wheel to decide who got what. So Scott has to bring back a portrait of Chris from Chris's mansion, and originally it was it had to be like an intact picture, but now since the mansion wasn't blown up because Duncan's not here, it has to be a specific portrait, and Chef is guarding the mansion with a pasta launcher. And then Heather got the diamond guarded by Fang, and Mal got the golden Chris statue. Zoe enters the woods angry at Mal for taking over Mike, but also upset at herself for helping him. She sees a giant rock and kicks it to take out her anger. But then it comes alive, and she realizes that it's the Yeti, and starts running back to Chris. Heather is shown looking very stressed, as she's been trying desperately to come up with hundreds of ideas to distract Fang, but she then realizes she's been looking at this problem too strategically, like a Courtney, Cameron, or even worse, Harold. So she decides to approach the challenge her own way. So she walks over to Fang, who is ready to devour her. Heather gasps and places her hand on Fang's fins, complimenting how well he's been taking care of them. She then looks down and sees his magnificent tail, and she proceeds to look up and looks shocked as she sees his shiny white teeth. And states that they don't call him Fang for nothing. Oh god. Fang is confused for a while, but then smiles, and as he finally feels appreciated. Heather has a confused look on her face and questions why such a healthy and marvelous shark is sitting around working for Chris. Instead, he should be showing himself off to the world. Fang realizes she's right and hops into the water and swims off, leaving Heather with the diamond. As she makes her way to Chris, she sees a pasta-covered Scott being chased around Chris's mansion by Fang. Zoe gets chased by the Yeti to the outside of the forest where she runs into Mal. I guess just put them together. There we go. Mal asks her if she missed him. Zoe slaps him across the face once and takes a breath before slapping him again and again. Zoe yells at Mal for taking away the man she loves. However, all the noise attracts the Yeti, who grabs Zoe for kicking him. Mal has the idea to knock over a tree to take at Zoe and the Yeti for less competition. However, Mike has been seeing all this unfold in his head, along with all of his personalities, and I don't think Mike would allow Mal to let the girl he cares about so much get crushed by a tree. So, Mike. So Mike is able to take back control, and he officially defeats Mal. Mike is then able to swing in on a vine and save Zoe from the Yeti, and Zoe is over the moon to finally be able to see Mike again, as she never gave up hope that he would return. However, they both realize that they still need to take care of the Yeti. So Zoe uses the vine Mike swung in on and some sticks to make a small slingshot to shoot a rock into the distance and tells the Yetis to go fetch. Mike and Zoe rush back to Chris, and Heather and us. Wait, what does that say? And a USA? I don't know what that says. Heather and a half-beaten up pasta-covered Scott approaches Chris, announcing that since Heather is the only one who brought back her item, they'll have to enter a tiebreaker. But he is then cut off by a loud crushing noise, and he looks over to see the Yeti crushing his mansion. As he runs through it, chasing a rock. Zoe has a nervous look on her face, and she says she should probably work on her aim. Chris realizes that Zoe is the one who made the Yeti crush her mansion, his mansion, and because of this, Zoe is eliminated. Zoe is shocked and a little bit upset, but she is mostly happy to have Mike back, so she doesn't really care. She wishes luck to Mike and apologizes to Heather for destroying the evidence she found against Mal. Heather understands she just wanted to save Mike, and the two say goodbye before Zoe is flushed away. And now on to the second elimination. Heather gets to pick who is eliminated for winning the challenge. And she obviously picks Mike for all Mal's done. Because even though it wasn't Mike, like, she still kind of blames Mike for it. Plus, like, she's still being strategic, so, and she knows that, like, Scott is a much easier competitor to go into the finale with, so she eliminates Mike. Mike isn't too bothered, as he just wants to be with Zoe, so Chris closes out the episode announcing the finalist in a sad tone after losing his mansion. Okay, and we're on to the finale! This episode starts with Heather giddy that she finally made finale, and even better in an all-star season. And her opponent is Scott. He's almost as easy to beat as Lindsay. Scott is excited, thinking Courtney will finally take him back now. That he was so brave and defeated Mal in the last challenge all by himself. Chris cuts into his confessional, showing scenes from the last challenge where he was terrified of getting hunted by Geoff, and Fang to show how brave he was. Chris starts the finale by telling the finalists that they can choose a weapon to shoot down two balloons with their helper people from the All-Star season in them. I don't think that made sense, but if you've seen All-Stars, you know what it is. Like, they get weapons and they shoot down balloons, and then whoever comes out of those balloons is their helpers. Yeah. Heather chooses the pasta launcher as her weapon, so she can be less accurate with her shots, but still get helpers by, like, shooting them, you know. And Scott chooses the bow and arrow, wanting to be more careful in case he shoots at Courtney. And this is where they get their partners. Heather shoots down Lashana and Alejandro. And Scott shoots down Courtney and Gwen. And I'm going to say that since this is my own universe, Chris ties down the other contestants so they don't float off into the sun and die. And that also means that now they can come back and root for their favorite finalists. Yay! Chris allows the previous eliminated contestants to support their favorite finalists. And as you can see here, supporting Scott is Jo. She doesn't really like either of them much, but from this specific season, she argued with Heather more, so she supports Scott from default. Lightning, he wants to support a more ruthless and tough competitor, which is Scott over Heather, who kind of had a redemption arc. Sam, not really a fan of either of them, but can relate more to Scott's goofy personality this season. And Mike. This one was kind of weird. I mostly just did it kind of so that the teams would be even, but in the end, Heather was the one who eliminated him. So I feel like maybe he'd, like, go with Scott, even though, I mean, to be fair, Scott did eliminate him in revenge. I don't know. I mostly just did that so that, like, supporting people would be even. But you could have him support Heather if you want. And then supporting Heather is Bridgette, obviously. Heather, Bridgette, Zoe, trio. An amazing trio there. I can also just move Zoe over because, yeah, like, they have the same reason. Like, obviously, they both are really good friends with Heather. DJ, proud of Heather for growing so much as a person, especially from like Island all the way to All Stars, and finally Cameron. Mostly just because he hates Scott and is also just kind of here for Zoe because Zoe is really good friends with Heather. Gwen is excited to see Courtney again because they didn't really get to spend much time together as friends. And Scott tries talking to Courtney, but she hurriedly walks past him as he approaches her to go talk to Gwen. Lashana and Alejandro agree to a truce for Heather's sake to not hate each other. Then they both congratulate her for getting so far. The final two have to make it to the top of a giant tower of different moats, and the first one is a toxic waste, the second burning hot lava, and the final moat is a river of water with mutant creatures living in it. Then the final two must climb to the top of the castle, sneak past Geoff with a pasta launcher, and pull the sword from the stone to win Total Drama All-Stars, and become the true All-Star. Alejandro has the idea to use the stilts to pole vault across the toxic waste moat, allowing Heather to take the lead. Scott looks at the ground and sighs. Courtney rolls her eyes and yells in his face. I should probably move Courtney over here. Courtney rolls her eyes and yells into Scott's face. And wait, I lost it. Courtney rolls her eyes and yells into Scott's face if he's really going to give up that easy. Scott looks into Courtney's eyes and remembers how much he likes them, so he kisses her, and she kisses him back. Gwen then jumps in and reminds him that they're in a $1 million competition, and Scott has no idea how to cross the moat, so he decides to take a leap of faith. Courtney grabs onto him as she knows he's just going to fall into the toxic waste, but this causes both of them to fall in. But they land on something. A bunny. DJ runs over out of his audience seat. Look at him go. There he is. And he's so happy to be reunited with his bunny from Island, even if he's a bit mutated. Scott, Gwen, and Courtney use this chance to hop across the moat onto the bunny and across the moat. And this makes both Scott and Heather use ladders to cross the lava moat. But once Heather, Lashana, and Alejandro cross, Alejandro pushes Scott's ladder into the lava, leaving Gwen and Courtney on the other side of the moat. Lashana tackles Alejandro to the ground for playing dirty again. Heather just rolls her eyes as their fight continues, and she climbs up onto the next level. Courtney yells at Scott to keep going, and he does. Courtney sighs, but then she catches a pogo stick that fell from the sky. She looks up to see Heather, who says she wants to make the fight as fair as possible, while winking. Courtney and Gwen smile and use the pogo stick to cross the moat one at a time. Lashana and Alejandro finally stop fighting and make it to the top of the water moat, where they see Scott and Courtney kissing, as they're together again. Lashana tells Heather this is her chance, but then she turns around to see Alejandro and Heather also kissing. I guess I should move them over there. Gwen joins her, and they look into each other's eyes before high-fiving. Chris then changes the rules to anyone can win the million, so Lashana holds Alejandro down to stop him from taking the money because she thinks that Scott and Heather both deserve it more. Mostly Heather, but yeah. Both Heather and Scott make it to the top, and both pull the swords out of the stone depending on the ending. In Scott's ending, Courtney rushes into his arms and kisses him, and yells he's rich. Scott corrects her, saying they're rich, as he wants to spend the money on their life together. Gwen puts a hand on Scott's shoulder, congratulating him, but he ignores her and makes out with Courtney. Gwen shrugs and helps Heather up and apologizes for her not winning, along with Alejandro and Lashana. Heather shrugs and says this season has helped her so much as a person, and she's lucky to have an amazing boyfriend and two great friends. In Heather's ending, she jumps up and down, giddy after winning, and snatches the briefcase of money out of Chris's hands, and celebrates with Lashana, Gwen, and Alejandro. Courtney pushes Scott to the ground, telling him he was supposed to win. Scott gets up and presents a ring made out of his other shoelace and officially asks Courtney to be his girlfriend. And she accepts, and they all lived happily ever after. Until the island blew up. And this is the season. This is the full season. Start all the way to finish. I really liked this one. I think this one was fun, and I really enjoyed how it turns out. I think this one fixes a big problem I had with my World Tour What If, which is Heather not winning and getting a redemption arc. Because in this season, she was actually able to get that redemption arc that she didn't get in World Tour. I think everything worked out really well. It was a nice wrap up to the characters' arcs. I think Sam being the first boot, that was honestly pretty good. Because he's not an all-star, and he didn't really deserve to be in there. So him just being there for boot fodder. I mean, obviously there were so many other options that you see here, but him just being here for boot fodder, that's fine. Fodder. I can't speak. And then Lightning and Cameron both being early boots, I think was also good because they didn't really have much to do. After they won their last season revenge. I was a little bit sad with DJ being a pretty early boot at first, especially because that would make him the fourth guy in a row, and no girl had gone out yet to be eliminated, because I kind of wanted to do more with him. However, I feel like there weren't too many big arcs I could do with him, so him being an early boot wasn't that bad. Then I think Gwen going out here was a pretty good placement for her, because she just made up with Courtney, and then that was pretty much her entire arc, so she could leave at that point, especially being a previous winner. Same with Bridgette, like Alejandro being able to take out his revenge, especially because she didn't really have much to do after winning. Joe got a lot further this time, and I didn't do too much with her, but I did like having her just like do little small parts, especially like in this episode. She like had that part with like breaking up Mike and Zoe. And then actually being able to have Alejandro and Heather get together, that was cool. Making Lashawna have a friendship with Heather. Also being able to like bring back Lashawna and Gwen's friendship, that was fun, because the last time they really talked was Action, and that was when Lashawna voted Gwen out, and then they didn't interact at all in World Tour, so it was nice to be able to bring that back. And then Courtney going out, it was a little bit sad. However, she did get some of the money from Scott winning, so I think that was good. And I also do prefer if it's 1 Gen 1, 1 Gen 2, opposed to like that. So I think that worked out well. And then Zoe and Mal going out this episode, and Mal actually getting a proper like defeat, villain dethronement, I don't know, out there. I think that was really good. And then I think Scott and Heather were both excellent winners for this one. So yeah, I really like how this one turned out. Let me know how you like this one in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, do all that stuff. And yeah, that's basically it. Bye.